Dr. Debi here, and just a quick announcement before we get to today's episode. Has someone shattered your trust? Have you been blindsided by betrayal? It's a total shock to the body and mind. Some of us recover, and many others stay sick, bitter, angry, resentful, and stuck. If that's you, I have a research-based solution. My new book, Trust Again: Overcoming Betrayal and Regaining Health, Confidence, and Happiness, is now available. In the book, I literally walk you through the 5 stages of betrayal all the way to transformation with all kinds of examples, stories, and activities so you heal as you're moving through the book. I've also shared my very personal story along with those who participated in my PhD study so you can see how others moved through their experiences too. Of course, I'm also teaching you my 4-part trust rebuilding process so you can learn to feel safe again, love again, trust again. So here's what you do. Go to the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/trust again. That's thepbtinstitute.com/trust again. Why? Because there's a link on that page that'll take you to Amazon, but I want you to know about it because once you get the book, come back to that page, enter your receipt, and then you get some amazing bonus gifts. Can't wait to share the book with you. And if you have friends or a group who'd benefit, get it for them too, because I'm giving tickets to a very special workshop for anyone who purchases more than 5 copies. thepbtinstitute.com/trust again. Okay, now on to today's episode. Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough. I'm Dr. Debi Silber, and today's guest is Jennifer Powter. Diet Disruptor Jennifer Powter coaches successful women just like you who want to finally understand their relationship with food so they can break free of emotional eating, lose weight for good, and stop feeling held back by their weight. Jennifer certainly knows her stuff. As well as holding a master's degree, she's a qualified clinical exercise physiologist, a double certified health and life coach, and an emotional intelligence practitioner with decades of success helping women all over the world. Clients use her revolutionary metabolic profile index assessment, where Jennifer breaks down the science of physiological transformation into simple, actionable steps so the path to healthy weight loss becomes a breeze. If you're feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, overweight, and unhappy, you're going to really appreciate my next guest. She's going to be talking about simple steps that yield big results when it comes to looking, feeling, and being better. Get ready. Here's Jennifer. Okay, everybody. I know I say it every single time, but it's really true. You are going to so love this next episode. I have my friend Jennifer Powter with us, and we're going to be talking about dieting. Now, don't worry. I know dieting can be a horrible word, and if you've been down that road 100 million times, it doesn't matter. I have someone who is so great at helping you what you need to know to get your body back in a way that just serves you best and really helps. So welcome, Jennifer.
Yay. Hi, Debbie. I am so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. So let's just get started. You're so passionate about everything, but why are you passionate about helping women get healthy?
Because of my own experience of what it felt like living unhealthy, unfulfilled, overweight, totally fatigued, frustrated. At that time, I had young kids, and I just remember my day-to-day experience, Debbie, and I always was like, this can't be it. This can't be it. And so once I sort of pulled back the layers on what it took for me to get healthy from the inside out, it became my mission to teach others how to do the exact same thing.
And that's always the best expert, someone who's been there and can just really come from this place of knowing. So before we even get to all the wonderfulness that you're going to share with us now, take us back to that time when you said you really weren't feeling well. What was life like? Like, why do you think you were in that space?
So many reasons. And I think that, sometimes hindsight's great, right? You can look backwards and go, oh, that was why. And at the time, I honestly didn't really understand it. I'd had 2 kids very quickly. My mom was very, very ill. And really the crux of it was I was in a marriage that was completely unfulfilling to my soul. And the idea of leaving it was so I couldn't even think that, because I would be shattering my own heart. What I wanted was a nuclear family. I wanted to not be raised like how I was raised. And yet I felt like so alone in that partnership. And so I drank wine, I ate chocolate, I distracted myself with all sorts of other techniques to get comfort and relief and solace. And finally, I had this, I call it a God moment in my book, where I was just like, I cannot continue living like this.
And I'm going to stop you right there because this is something so common. Actually, my first TEDx was about this, where it's we numb, avoid, distract from something too painful to feel or face. And
Yeah.
we use things like food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, because they pull us away from getting quiet. Because
Yeah.
we're, and you know what it's like? It's so interesting because remember when you were a kid, if someone said something you didn't want to hear, remember you'd stick your fingers in your ears and you'd be like, la, 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 I don't hear you. Well, the wine, the cookies, right? It's doing the same thing. It's like the adult version of that same game. So,
Totally.
so what was your moment when you finally realized, okay, enough of this?
Uh, for me, there was two significant events. One was I was going to go out with girlfriends for my birthday. And I remember going downstairs, my room was in the basement, and I pulled out what was the biggest pair of boyfriend jeans I had at the time. And so I was excited. I tried to pull them on, and they don't go up, Debi. I cannot pull them past my thighs. And there was like, I started to sweat, and there was this frenzy of all of a sudden pulling out all of these clothes and trying to put them on. And they all ended up on my bed, and they all ended up with me crying on the floor. And so at that time, so you got to remember, like, I had a master's degree in exercise physiology. I'd been a personal trainer. I'd been an Ironman athlete, a marathoner. Like, this was very foreign to feel so awful in my body. But what's interesting is the body doesn't lie. The
Mm-hmm.
body doesn't lie. You're always getting messages from your body. We might ignore them. I was good at ignoring them. But that was the first thing. So I thought, this is going back, 10 years ago, that I needed to push more. I needed to work harder. Like, obviously something was wrong with me, right? All of those crazy voices in my head were loud. And so I started to train like a crazy woman in the gym. And I basically drove myself into complete adrenal exhaustion. Like, I was exhausted.
And I want to go there
Were,
too. And you know what it
yeah,
is? And here's the thing. It's like, so we're so good at thinking and doing. And so often it's the feeling and being part that we just try to outrun. And it sounds like that's what you were trying to do. It's like, no, 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 I'll push harder. I'll work harder. I'll do more. And it's the doing. And it's because I think I find this, especially with women, maybe men too, but I see this so often with women. We're so capable. So we just
yeah.
keep piling more on as if running further and faster is gonna make all of the difference. And it's like we're using the wrong tool for the job. We're using
Totally
the
the wrong
mind when
tool.
it's not a mind job right here. Okay, so then you found yourself in adrenal exhaustion, and anybody who's been there, I know it. I've been there, and it feels like you could sleep a whole night long, wake up, and feel like you need to go right back to sleep. You feel like you're walking through mud all day. It's absolutely exhausting. Tell us your symptoms, what you feel like, and what did that lead to?
Oh, it was exactly what you said. I felt like a crazy person, and I actually really did. And here I am in my, early 30s, and these little kids, and I had what should have been a great life, but it did not feel like a great life. And there was, possibly looking back, maybe depression. There was anxiety. There was, I call it like this chatter in my head that was incessant about what was wrong with me. I kept thinking there was something wrong with me, not that there was things wrong in my life that I needed to attend to. And so my attention wasn't on the right things. I kept thinking that if I just somehow did better, that everything would get better. But that wasn't it. And then finally I went to a doctor. He had a hybrid certification where he was a Western medicine doctor, but also had a lot of orthomolecular background and functional medicine background. And he had zero bedside manner. And he said to me, I swear to God, he was 100 if he was 70. And he just said, "You're engaging in a slow form of suicide. Why
Mm,
do you want to live like this?"
wow.
And it was, no one had ever spoken to me like that. And no one had ever called a spade in my life like that. And I remember just going home and crying. And Yeah, that was the beginning. That was the beginning of a journey towards true health. And instead of chasing the external representation of health, which was at that point for me looking good in a pair of skinny jeans, it was really recognizing I had to go about the internal work. There was no other way. I tried the other ways. They failed me. So I needed to do something different.
And I always say transformation starts when you tell yourself the truth. And it sounds like his words shocked you into truth, taking a look at what your truth was. So what happened next? What'd you do?
I shelved everything. So I came home. I'd actually been building a company. So I was sort of working like what I called triple shifts, right? I was parenting early morning all day. My husband then at the time would come home. I would do all the dinner stuff. And then I would go into the office from the 7 to midnight shift. And I hated the company I was building. I wasn't successful. So I just shut it down. And I literally made myself my own project. Mm-hmm. And immediately the wine came out of the cupboard. I dumped it down the drain. I didn't buy another bottle. I drank tea. And like I did the things I know or I knew that would be healthy for me that I'd been so resistant to doing because I craved the comfort so much. I no longer craved the comfort. I craved the change. I craved feeling better. And I was willing to do whatever it took. And for me, really not eating chocolate chips and wine at night wasn't that hard, right? Like it wasn't. I wanted to feel better, but it then became about like journaling and all the things the gurus tell you are good for you, but you think you don't have time for, or I did anyways. Meditate. I surrendered. I literally became willing to do. I sought help. That's the other thing I did. I no longer went it alone. I was a trainer. I got a trainer. I was a coach. I got a coach. Like I got someone who could help me see my blind spots. And
there's so much to what you said just right there. Like a few things, when you crave change more than you crave the cookies or crave the wine, that's so important. It's almost like, you realized the drinking the wine or whatever you were doing just wasn't working, and that's not it. And it'll never give you the real deep satisfaction and fulfillment. And then surrendering is so important, and seeking support is so crucial too. But also, it was a big, bold move just to say, you know what, I'm so done with this business. And I imagine a lot of people listening right now are saying, well, I've been in that position and I would so love to shut that down, my business or that idea. But like, I know I'm sort of wired for guilt. Guilt is like that emotion that just keeps coming up. And I would imagine like that would be the emotion, be like, well, I feel so guilty if I do that. How did you manage the emotions when you were thinking, I'm done with this, I'm shutting it down?
It was a real lesson in me figuring out what my worth was. And I grew up as a child of an alcoholic mother. And let me tell you, my self-worth story was not awesome. I grew up taking care of someone else. I continued to live out that role. And so taking that stand for myself, I believe, was another pivot point in my life where, again, my husband and I had the conversation at that time that we could get by. We could get by for 6 months. We could figure a way to get through that time where I shifted a company. So it wasn't blind. I mean, money can be such a factor in what drives us to just suck it up and keep going. But I think another part of that was I had two bigger reasons beyond just myself, which were these children. I'd had these children, and I was not an awesome version of me for them or for myself. And of course, obviously not for my husband then, but he was a huge part of the system. The system was broken. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't look to my kids couldn't fix anything. He wasn't going to fix anything. If I wanted anything to change, it was up to me.
Mm-hmm. And that's, when you take responsibility, of course, that's when you're taking your power back. And that's where change happens, because, when we're looking at all of these outside forces to say, oh, it's because of that, it's due to you, it's because of this and that. It's like we're saying, okay, and here's my power. Here it is. Take it and hopefully just be gentle with it. But when we sort of own it, take responsibility, that's where that change happens. So talk to us about, so then did you lose weight after that? Was it because I know you have taken on the diet industry. So it had to be because of your own transformation. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, I totally did. So here's the crazy thing. I mean, every woman who's ever looked at wanting to lose weight knows the crap that's out there. And again, luckily, I'm going to say that I did have, a decent number of years behind me of school that I knew those things were not working, right? I still thought the move more philosophy, eat less, move more, eat less was going to work for me. And so, but what it was stop. I had to radically redesign my expectations about what change looked like for me, and to recognize what women expect to occur in a month versus being patient to the kind of change that you can create in a year with consistency and persistence.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my golden ticket out of that pain pathway. And so I did. I said, a year from now, I'm not going to be like this. And there was nothing extreme about my approach. In fact, what I say now is what I do is very not sexy. It's very not marketable, but it's real, it's permanent, it's sustainable. And if you can give yourself the time to create the change, then you'll have it forever. And so, I saw a therapist, and I did a whole approach. It wasn't just about having a green smoothie every day or just oming my way to a healthier mindset. It had to be an integrated, for me, it was an integrated approach where the diet got cleaned up, the alcohol and the sugar lessened, the movement became a non-negotiable. Debi, I was a young mother who believed that my worth, I remember wanting to go for a walk one day. Very simple, wanted to get out and go for a walk, but the floor was dirty. And I believed that my job, I was better off washing that floor than taking myself out for a walk. And so those were the things that I had to overcome. The laundry, the recognizing it was never, ever all going to be done, but that I needed to feel good while doing these other things in my life, or I was going to have no joy.
And I remember back in the day, and I just want to stress this because I'm sure there are some young moms listening who are they're where you were, and they're saying, I can't even manage to get dressed with all of this. And it's so important because I remember back in those days, man, I had 4 little kids. They were all, 16 months apart, then 3 years, then 19 months apart. And it was a zoo, and all these dogs and everything. And I remember getting to that point of, I remember the day where I said, what about if the main area is clean and whatever they do in their rooms is their own business? If I tell you the freedom I had just by that one move, because you're trying, it's that whole perfection, this superwoman, super mom thing. It's awful. And I remember back during that time, I was doing a lot of stress testing on people, and I would see these women, they looked beautiful on the outside, but there was a train wreck going on the inside. And these are the ones staying up all night long to make sure their kids' projects were perfect, and they paid a big price for it. So, so it's amazing how you recognize that and put yourself, I always say, put yourself on your own to-do list. You put yourself on your own list.
That right there, I think the art of a woman learning to be a priority in her own life is the most critical skill set a woman can develop. Men, perhaps, I don't see the same challenges with men. The challenges are different for each role that we have in life. But for women, it's so easy to, and what I hear all the time is, I've fallen so far off it, I don't even think I'm on my own priority list. And it literally feels mind-bendy to figure out how, the most powerful question I ask myself is, what do I want? What do I want? What makes me happy? What do I enjoy? And it's, for my clients, often that question, there's just this pause and then tears because they don't know what they want. They don't know what makes them happy anymore. And that's the opportunity, that's the pathway to break open to something new in your life.
And what's so great about when this is, and I used to use this spin all the time, when someone is a parent and they weren't sure, and they got themselves into this mess where it's just about everybody else, and they're not even taking any measures towards their own self-care. And I would say, okay, so now imagine your child comes to you and says these exact things. What would you say? What would you suggest? So if you're the role model, what are you doing? What are you doing here? So what did you learn from that? What did that teach you about you?
Well, a couple things. What it taught me, it taught me that my feelings are data. So I consider myself smart. I consider myself type A, all of that stuff. And what I had been ignoring in my 20s and 30s were my feelings. I wanted to skip over them. I didn't want to have the feelings that I had. And for me, some of those feelings were I had married a man and had children with someone who I was not meant to be with for the long term. I either got together with him for the wrong reasons and I had to deal. So Debi, as I got stronger emotionally, mentally, physically, and started to look after me, not every woman needs to leave her marriage. Some women do need to redesign the terms of their marriages or their partnerships so their needs are met. But I developed the courage to leave mine and to create different choices. And those are not easy decisions, but I had the internal strength and ability to know for me that was the right thing to do, even though divorce had impact on my children. So in that year, I lost 40 pounds. I completely, I ate healthy with my main meals with my kids. It was a snacking and crap that I ate from 8 to 11 at night. I think for so many people that can be the witching hours. I redesigned my business to be much more in alignment with who I am and what my skill set was and my passion. It wasn't just chasing money. And I said no. I finally listened to my heart. And so from that, I really started to understand. In my 20s, I'd been do, achieve. The letters after my name were really important. My value was in what I did, not in who I was. And that flipped. And I can't say it was like a quick switch, but it was a process. So now being in my mid 40s, thank God we age and get, develop wisdom, right? Like that is such a gift. I can see it in others when the neglect, I call it, for you and what you're about with betrayal. For me, I betrayed myself. There was a deep and profound sense of self-betrayal, self-abandonment, self-rejection, self-neglect. And that was what I needed to heal.
And it's amazing when we learn so much, we become so much stronger, wiser, richer, better. So imagine because I know there are women and men listening right now that are where you were, and they're like, I don't know the first place where to start. My body, I don't even know what the heck happened. I'm exhausted. I'm overworked, overwhelmed, unhappy, stuck. What do you suggest to that person?
Yeah. Well, again, I believe it starts with radical honesty, right? So the more, women, we keep adding, when life is not adding up, it's time to start subtracting. And most of us just keep adding in. So the first suggestion or the tools that I would use with my clients or anybody listening is you got to be willing to pull out a pen and paper and write it down. It's like you literally, I always say it's that movie, The Green Mile. Did you ever see it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's so
but
good.
I know the name. I remember hearing about it.
If your listeners have watched it, there's a scene in the movie where this man just opens his mouth and all of these black flies come pouring out of his mouth. And it's like just this purge of yuckiness from inside him. And I think many times we keep things in our head. And when you keep it in your head, there's no relief. There's no honesty. You don't see what's going on. You got to write it out. And I just say often stream of consciousness writing is the easiest way to do that. The things that I'm unhappy with my life are. The things that don't feel good for me right now in my life are. And just recognize it's a moment. You don't need to judge it, but you do need to be honest about it. And then from that point, you have to start to imagine, well, if things felt better for me, here's what would be different for myself.
So recap that, because I think that's really important. So the first thing, it's like a stream of consciousness, get it out.
Get it out. And stream of consciousness writing. So here's the deal. If you're like me, I used to hate writing. The idea of sitting with a journal, first of all, I was terrified somebody was going to read my journal. I was worried that, I would hurt someone with what they read about it. So literally just a pad of paper, loose leaf, like who cares? And shred it afterwards if you want. Burn it. But it's like you put your pen to paper and you can set a timer for 3 minutes. Everybody has a phone. Everybody can do this for 3 minutes. A lot of times people think journaling is going to take an hour and it's like this deep, depressing process. Instead, make it easy for yourself. Bullet point it or just keep your pen to the paper and write. So that's the step. And you'll be amazed at what comes out if you give yourself the opportunity to just let things flow.
And I have to tell you, this is something that I do personally, and it's shocking sometimes what I'll write. I had no idea I was feeling these things, none at all. And just giving yourself that time. And speaking, you mentioned the whole type A. I know I'm type AAA. I hear you. And there's something so comforting about journaling, because as you're doing something so wonderful yourself, you also feel like you're accomplishing something. So the whole type A thing gets checked off right there. Like, okay, I'm being productive. But it's so true, because you're accessing these subconscious things that need to be released right here, and then you know what you're working with.
That's just it. One of the things I say all the time, it's like a mantra in my own life, is what I resist persists. So whatever you're resisting, you can mask it, hide it, whatever, but it will persist until you face it, deal with it, come to terms with it, get honest about it. So as much as I was resisting the dissatisfaction in my marriage, I had to make it real. And it doesn't mean I don't live with things in my life right now, but I face them. I have that courage to do it. It doesn't mean that my life is perfect now by any stretch, right? But my skill set to handle whatever comes up is just so much more evolved because of these tools.
Right. You're strengthening your skill set. And everybody who is listening knows I always say, face it, feel it, heal it. And it sounds like that's exactly what you've done. And it's funny you mentioned about the journaling. My handwriting is so messy, I can't read my own writing. So I can't even imagine anyone else could, because I can't even read my own. So, okay. So the journaling was really helpful for you. So you suggest journaling. Any other strategies that you'd suggest to that person who's just like, I don't even know where to start. I feel horrible. I'm exhausted. I don't know where this weight just showed up from. What's up? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So anybody I ever ask, I teach these live events, and I'm like, okay, y'all, or I'm like, what do you think you need to do? What would make the biggest difference in your life if you were to change, create some changes, easy wins? Everybody knows the low-hanging fruit. Every person I've asked is always able to tell me at least 2 or 3 simple, well, I should probably go to bed earlier. Well, I should probably drink more water. Well, so ask yourself that question. What are the 2 or 3 simple things that I know that I could do for myself that would make a difference in my life? You know it.
And you know what's so great about that? Because when you do, like, let's just say one of them that you said, like, drink more water, you may think, well, what's that going to do? But just doing that one thing, saying it and meaning it and creating a new habit out of it, it's also one of the biggest aspects when it comes to betrayal anyway, is trust. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our betrayer. And one of the ways to rebuild that trust is saying something and meaning it. So something like that, we look at it like it's small, but it's really not. It's doing so much more than just that one simple thing of giving us a good habit. We're learning to retrust ourselves.
And that builds that whole notion of living in integrity. So what I experienced was I lived completely not in integrity with what was important to me. I'd say one thing and do another, all of that. And so for, weight loss, I take it deeper than just clean up your diet and move your body. It's really about rebuilding the trust you have, because weight loss is like death by 1,000 cuts. Mm-hmm. How many times have you said, I'm going to get up and go to the gym, and then you hit snooze, or I'm going to drink more water, and then you drink pop, or I'm not going to drink tonight, and then you drink a bottle of wine. And so very, very easily, of course, you don't trust yourself. You've betrayed yourself for 10 times at least in a day. And that's been for how many years in a row? So these simple things that you and I are talking about, which anybody could poo-poo, because in the dieting world, everything's extreme. It's go big, go hard. Like, it's got to be about so much deprivation and just, restriction and denial, which no woman can handle, especially if she's already living in a trauma state or painful state. So I kept it very simple in the beginning. I made a non-negotiable to move my body every day. It was a non-negotiable. And Debi, I started small. I used to run marathons and I couldn't even run a mile. So I said, great, I'll walk 10 minutes. And it was every day. And
it's so, and I want to stop you there, because we're only moving in one of 2 directions, further or closer to the body, life, lifestyle that you want. So anything that you're doing, which is moving you closer, is a good thing. And it shouldn't be minimized. And think about it. It's so true, because after something like betrayal, then there's all this self-betrayal. Now it's like this toxic soup of its terribleness. So just these slight things to stop the negative momentum and begin a more positive direction is what slowly and steadily and predictably can get us out. So it's so important that you're saying that. Any other tips or solutions you want to suggest?
Yeah. Stop comparing.
Ooh.
If you compare yourself to a version of you that existed a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, you are literally putting the brakes on any forward progress because you're looking backwards. And if you're trying to live life by moving forwards and you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror, you stumble, you fall, and you wonder what's wrong with you. And instead of comparing, and I talk about, for me, it was so easy to be hard on myself and be like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I can't, I'm walking 10 minutes. I used to run for 42. Like I just kept holding myself to this standard, and it didn't matter. I was where I was. Like, it did not, comparing hurt me. Comparing myself to others hurt me. So I really developed the skill set of not allowing myself to think thoughts or engage in that trap, because it took all of my positive feelings away. So often with my clients, I say, don't let anything into your feed, your social media feed, or into your mindset feed that lets you feel like crap about yourself, because it's a way to halt all progress.
And it's so true. It's so easy to do. And it really takes discipline. It's disciplining your mind. But look at the benefit when you do. Look at what you receive when you do. What do you want to make sure everyone knows before we wrap up?
I want to make sure people get that change is possible, no matter, and like everything that you've gone through, no matter how hard or how much pain or how much you've cried yesterday or this morning, or, no matter what your body is like, if this is an outcome that's happened in your life, you're 100% way more powerful than you remember in this moment. And it's going to be by taking these simple steps every day and committing to a new life, a new version of you that you get to create, that becomes ultimately inspiring. And, for me, writing my book, Debi, on Diet Disruption, it was about helping women create disruption in their own mindset about what change, required, and allowing it to be easy and actually, dare I say, a joyful experience after coming through the trauma and the pain, and allowing the challenges to become something that are really inspiring for yourself.
And you said it, a new you that you get to create. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of these experiences, that we can look and say, okay, well, this is what happened. This is where I am. What do I want now? And instead of being a ping pong ball in the ocean, acting reactively, we can become proactive and create, a life that we want. Where do we learn more about you? Where do we go?
You are welcome to come and grab a copy of my book if anybody's interested at dietdisruptionbook.com. And of course, everything else is under my website, www.jenniferpowter.com.
Jennifer, thank you so much. I know, it's like I'm picturing everybody taking this big sigh of relief. And they're taking that big sigh of relief because they're like, I can do that. I can do that. And I can feel good about that. And doesn't mean I'm lowering the bar. Doesn't mean I'm slacking. It means I'm moving in the right direction. So for that, you've given us an amazing gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Jennifer shared so many great ideas, and transformation begins with radical honesty and taking a stand for yourself. When we don't, we're really betraying ourselves, and you deserve so much better than that. Stay in touch with Jennifer by going to jenniferpowter.com, and we'll have all of her information in the show notes at thepbtinstitute.com/podcast. Here's my biggest takeaway. When life isn't adding up, start subtracting. I love that. It's not about doing more, it's about becoming more. And that means getting clear on what we want and radically redesigning some expectations you may have set for yourself. Jennifer also suggested creating some easy wins by making a simple change and sticking with it, living in integrity in order to rebuild trust in yourself, and stop comparing yourself to a different version of you or anyone else. Some great advice and a good reminder. Have you taken the post-betrayal syndrome quiz? If not, head over to it at thepbtinstitute.com/quiz, and the PBT Institute membership community is ready. Imagine everything you'd ever need to become your physical, mental, emotional best, community support, certified coaches and practitioners you could schedule time with, daily classes on all kinds of interesting topics, curated experts teaching advanced strategies in the areas of health, mindset, spirituality, personal development. Imagine the most friendly, welcoming, and supportive place to become your best, all online. I'm so excited to welcome you. Go to thepbtinstitute.com/join to learn more. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to be with you next time. And here's to your breakthrough.